And good evening, everyone. Welcome to another exciting Saturday night wine stream and another exciting edition of Drink with Rick. I'm Rick, and tonight we are going to do something a little bit special. We do something special every Saturday night, but tonight is going to be rather special for a couple of reasons. We're going to try a Pinotage, and that is a type of wine that I love. I haven't had it for a while. This one is a little bit different. And so we're going to check it out. I'll tell you all about it in just a few moments. I hope you'll stick around with me and tell me how you're doing. Of course, I see that my lovely wife, Chi, has joined us in the chat. So please feel free to join me in the chat. We're live on Facebook, on our Facebook page, Twitter. We're on YouTube, Twitch. We are on drinkwithrick.com. Please, if you're joining me for the first time, this is the Saturday night wine stream, and let me see if I can find the I don't have my lower third up. Okay, that's all right. Let me get this fixed. Oh, my lower third is off. Okay, that's very, very interesting. All right, well, for some reason my lower third just went out on me here. It's always something, isn't it? I don't know what's going on with that. So we'll. I have no idea. Anyway, let's try it that way. Okay, now it's back. We got it. I want you to see that because that's where the website address is. Okay, so folks, if you're joining me for the first time, this is Drink with Rick. This is a stream of consciousness kind of show. This is where we open up a bottle of wine and pour it and taste it and pair it with foods and sit around and toast birthdays, anniversaries, national days, and learn a little bit about the wines. And we're going to do that tonight. We're going to learn about the Pinotage grape tonight. So stick around. I hope you'll watch this. And James joins in the chat. James, good to see you. Hey, stick around because we've got a special birthday toast for you guys. So I don't want to spill the beans on this, but please stick around for that. Of course, you can watch us here on Facebook and our Facebook page. Facebook page is Drink with Rick. You can catch Twitter at Drink with Rick, and you can comment there on Twitter as well, because we're up on Periscope live, and we should be there tonight, and it looks like we are. Twitch, also, if you're on Twitch and you like gaming or you like hanging out on Twitch, join us at Drink with Rick 1. That's Drink with Rick 1. Look us up there, and you can watch and. Please join us live in the stream as well, because I check there. I check the chat also. In fact, let me check the chat now. Nothing going on there, but there may soon be. We do get people in the chat there from time to time, and I do get caught up with some of the other chats, and sometimes I forget to look at it for a while, and I apologize for that if you've been missed before on Twitch, but I try to keep up with that. Anyway, you can also watch us, drinkwithrick.com live. We do have the wine stream live. Now, you can't chat with us there, but you can, if you open up the page that the live stream is on for tonight, you can comment in the comments below the video, and I will see and respond to those as well. And also, of course, you can go to Rick at savoyamedia.com. Contact me, Rick at savoyamedia.com. It's SAVOIAMEDIA.com, and I'll be happy to respond to any of your questions, queries, comments, feedback, anything that you want to talk to me about. Besides spam, but anything else you want to talk to me about, I'll be happy to respond to you in kind there. Of course, the podcast, this is a podcast also, and it goes up on Monday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern, every week, Mondays at 10 p.m. Eastern, and you can also contact me at rick at savoyamedia.com there. So, let's go ahead and introduce the wine. I'm going to start this off. This is a very interesting wine. This is a Backsberg. This is a Backsberg 2017 Pinotage wine. And what makes this special? A couple of things that make this special. This is This is a wine from South Africa, and this has been created from a grape that originated in South Africa. It's actually from a couple of different grapes that were sort of blended together to make one grape. This is going to be a very interesting wine to try. We have had a couple of these before, and we've tried them, and I like them both, and I'm hoping that I will like this one as well. I don't see why I shouldn't if it is a Pinotage, if it's a good Pinotage. So let me read a little bit about this wine. Let's look at the back end of this wine, and we'll read a little bit about it. And it says, let's see, lot back here to read. Ripe mulberry and sweet strawberry with a touch of herbs, a juicy mouthfeel with supple, sweet tannins. This kosher Mefujal wine has been made under strict supervision of the Cape Town Beth Din South African and the OU. This is Backsberg. It's a kosher Pinotage, and that was the other thing I said was surprising about this wine that I thought was very interesting and rather special. This is a kosher wine. This is a wine of original Parle, product of South Africa, and it is a 2017. It is 14% alcohol by volume in this 750 milliliter bottle. So we're gonna try this out. Now, the reason that I've had this wine, if you've noticed in the past, I've had this wine sitting in the back, right in between these two, for many months. Well, yeah, for a few months now. I purchased it at Sunset and Vine. That's Sunset and Vine in Blowing Rock, North Carolina. And the good folks there at Sunset and Vine, this was one of the wines that was recommended by my friend Bennett Larson. Bennett, who is one of the proprietors there, and the other proprietor, of course, Sharon Chrisman, who I've met before as well on a previous trip or two to Sunset and Vine. A very nice place, very homey. It has a little bit of a rustic look to it, but it's very for the mountains. It's like a mountain kind of shop, and if you've ever been roaming around in Blowing Rock, North Carolina, they have a lot of kind of rustic shops there, and very quaint. I guess quaint is the word, and but very warm, and very personable, very homey shops there. And Sunset and Vine is one that's been around for a couple of years there. We've been there a few times. I purchased a few wines from them. The first one I didn't have a great experience with, but the subsequent wines that we've opened have been really good choices. And I want to give a shout out to Sharon and Bennett there if they're watching. And Sherry's watching. Sherry's just joined us in the chat. Sherry, it's great to see you. Thanks for being here. I toasted you. I believe I toasted you you guys last week on the wine stream. Stick around, please. We're going to learn about this wine, as a matter of fact. This is going to be a good wine to learn about. See if anyone else is in the chat real quick let's see, nothing going on YouTube, anything going on Twitch. Kind of quiet on Twitch at the moment, but that usually picks up a little bit later. And to be honest, we're not going to go real long tonight. We've been doing an hour 45 minutes. We've been going on like 2 hours. We've done our longest one's been a little over 2 hours, and it's I've had some feedback that it's going on too long. So I'm going to cut this one back really short tonight. So we're going to try to keep this very concise, and we'll see how that goes. And if you like this one better, let me know. If you don't like it, if you like them longer, let me know as well. So let's go ahead and open this wine, and we'll learn a little bit about it as we go along. Now, they gave me some netting here. There's some netting that's covering the bottle, and I'll open this up. Now, while it's breathing, I'll go into more particulars about the wine and how much I paid for it and that sort of thing. But for now, let's get it open so we can go ahead and get to tasting the wine. I've got my trusty foil cutter here from the Veneto Wine Lover set. And I have my, let's see, where is it? Here's my decorker, my corkscrew, mechanical corkscrew that my lovely wife Chi purchased for me. And she got it for about $5. So we're going to open this up with this. I should put this on a close-up, shouldn't I? Here we go. So you can see a little bit closer in action. And it comes out fairly easily. Not too bad. I'll remove the cork later. And, of course, to pour it, I'm going to use my Veneto aerator from the Veneto Wine Lover set, which I really, really like. And we gave out a couple of these aerators over the holidays to some lucky winners, and they seem to really like them as well. So we have that in place. And we're going to pour into my Galway Genuine Irish Crystal glass that was given to me as a gift from my employers, Danny and Charity, and thank you, Danny and Charity, both. They gave me a very, very nice set of Irish crystal glass. This is really, really nice, Galway, and it's proved to be very nice glass to pour wine in. Rob's joined us in the chat. Rob's, good to see you. Thanks for joining me in the chat, and stick around, please. We've got a lot going on here, and it's going to be a fairly short stream tonight compared to the others we've done, so I'm going to be keeping this moving. And to get it moving, let's go ahead and pour a little bit of this wine into the glass. And we're just going to have a little bit for starters. I'm going to keep it. I don't know which way to keep it. There we go. And let's see. This wine has a very, very dark complexion. This is a very full-bodied wine. We're going to let it sit and breathe for just a moment or two. And while it's doing that, as promised, let me get to a couple of the details on this wine. Now, I looked up this wine to get some to get a little bit of a bearing on what it costs across the net, what I paid for it, and where it's available. Let's see. I found it online in a few places. This is, let's see, for anywhere from $14.99, I think. No, that was the Blanc. Okay, let's see. This is the how do you pronounce that? Mavushal? I am not. This is a kosher wine, but I'm not. You know, I'm not Hebrew, so I don't know how to pronounce a lot of this. I'm not. Very, very good at pronouncing anything. Sometimes I'm terrible at my English, too, so who knows. So if I butcher some of this stuff, forgive me, okay? I'm not Jewish. So Backsberg, Pinotage, this is the Mavushal, right? I don't know. That's the Merlot. This is the South Africa Kosher Pinotage, $17.99. At Scotto's Wine Cellar in Brooklyn, New York. That's the Merlot. This is that's a Cabernet. Okay, I think this is West Side Wines and Spirits. I think they had it for $20 a bottle, something like that, 21. No, that's the Merlot, once again. Okay, the Pinotage, West Side Wines and Spirits, $21.99 a bottle. Let's see what else we got here. And it ranges from around $18 to $20 a bottle, looks like, and thereabouts. But what I paid for this wine, and do I still have my original? Yeah, I do have it somewhere, but I misplaced it, didn't I? I have the original receipt here. Those are all wine store receipts. I know I had it here. There it is, Sunset and Vine. Original Sunset and Vine receipt. I paid $16.99 for this bottle of Backsberg Pinotage. And you know what? As a matter of fact, it's right here. It's a sticker. There's a price sticker on the side of the bottle. So there you go. I could have just done that, couldn't I? So let's go back to the chat for just a moment. See if anyone else has joined us. Nothing going on YouTube Tom Antio is on Twitch. Says, "Hi, Pops." Hi, son. That's my son, Tom Antio, who does frequent. He does a lot on Twitch. Let's. Whoops. I think I just. What did I just do here? There we go. I just lose my stream. There we go. All right, we're back. So. Let's go ahead and try this wine. And also let you know, tonight I have to pair with this wine. I have a few foods to pair with it. I have, nothing fancy tonight. I have This is a turkey pepperoni, and these are some peanuts that my wife, she made herself. She did these roasted these peanuts herself. Some cheeses. We have what do we have here? We have a medium cheddar, I think, and we have a Parmesan that may go well with this cheese. Excuse me, with this wine, depending on how strong it is. And we have we have this right here. That's called puto. It's a Filipino. It's a rice cake thing. It's just made of rice flour, and this one has some cheese on top. So this is a cheese puto. It's a rice flour is what it is, and pretty much what rice flour and water, is that what it is? Cheese, that sort of thing. And also something very special my wife made today, and that is a beef jerky. She made her own beef jerky. So we're going to try that out with this and see how it pairs with the wine. It may do that. It may do that, especially if this wine is somewhat tannic. It should be okay. So let's go ahead and try this wine. Kind of smoky, right there on the bat. I can smell the smoke a little bit on the front end. Let me see. Is it supposed to be smoky? I guess it might be a little bit. Kind of oak. Smell some oak. And it's a little blackberry, a lot of fruit, a lot of different fruits in it. Like fruits, not so much like blackberries and cherries and stuff like that you're used to getting in some of the other wines. This is more like a fruit cake. It really is kind of a lot of different fruits, like chunks of fruit in it almost. And that's what it smells like. Let's see what it tastes like. Very oaky. Very oaky. A little bit like, I want to say almost like wet leaves, but in a good way, not in a bad way, in a good way. It's sort of like autumn leaves, that kind of autumn leaf kind of thing. It's kind of nutty too. Now I'm not tasting the blackberry. I smell the blackberry, but I wasn't tasting the blackberry. I'm tasting a little bit of strawberry in it, and once again, it's very oaky. It's very oaky. At least to me, it seems rather oaky. And it's tannic. There are a lot of tannins in this wine. A fair number of tannins in this wine, and it's very dry. It's very dry. Now, of course, as you see the tannins, the more tannins you have in this wine, the drier it often gets. Or the drier it often tastes, because that's kind of what gives you some of that dry feel are the tannins, and it's not really acidic. It's kind of a medium on that. Let's try a little bit more of this. This is interesting, but it is. Let me put this over here. There we go. Autumn leaves comes to mind a little bit, but I think it's that oakiness. It's that oaky taste to it. But it's not it's not like, it's not like moldy leaves or something like that. It's kind of, it's just kind of, the oakiness, I think. And the tannins are fairly pronounced in here. But it's pretty good. It's actually, and it does have a little, it goes down dry, but it has kind of a slightly sweet, after it goes down, the aftertaste is slightly sweet. I would say that it has a very slightly sweet finish, although it's not, I wouldn't call it a sweet wine. It just has a kind of sweet finish in the back of the mouth, in the back of the palate. So very interesting wine. We're going to have some more, and let's pair it with some food and try it out. Then we're going to learn a little bit more about the grape, because I think that's going to be a lot of fun. We've got some more things here we can learn about the grape. kind of has a nutty taste to it. I wonder if this will go well with the peanuts. Some wines do go well with roasted peanuts and snacks. This one might, being a Pinotage. We're going to try it with my wife's roasted peanuts, and I love these peanuts. The whole neighborhood, I've talked about it a few times before, the whole neighborhood loves these peanuts. Whenever we have a neighborhood get together, which we haven't had for a while because everyone's kind of shut in right now, but everyone wants, they clamor for my wife's peanuts, so she makes up a batch. Let me try these. I love these peanuts. Very peanutty. Let's try it with this one. Wow, it really magnifies the peanutty taste, which is kind of cool. I like it with the peanuts. Let me try a couple more. Of course, I love these peanuts anyway. But oh yeah, it's almost like you put a megaphone in front of a peanut, and it's like it just magnifies the, it just shouts out the taste of that peanut. Very good. I like it with the peanuts. Although I don't think I can have too many of these or the peanuts or the wine together, because I have a feeling that would not be good for my digestive tract in the morning. But and that's as far as I'm going to go with that. But let's see. Let's try it with a couple other things. Let's try it with the turkey pepperoni, tannic, and this is a little smoky. As this is wine, this wine's a little, like I said at the very beginning, has sort of a smoky scent to it. And we'll see how that works with that. Let's see if it brings out the smoky flavor. Very interesting. I have to try that one more time. It's very interesting. It's because it's a little spicy, like a pepperoni kind of thing. For pizza, this would probably be okay with a pepperoni pizza. Yeah, not bad. Although at the end, on the finish, it kind of falls flat a little bit on the finish. But going down, it's not bad at all. Let's try it. Oh, let's try it with the beef jerky. My wife made this wonderful beef jerky today, and we're going to try it with that. Show how it works. And of course, to do that, I need to refill a little bit. Notice I'm not filling the wine glass that far up. Although, sure, I'm sure you would say, fill it up, because that's what Gina and Penny would say. My sisters Gina and Penny, fill it up, more and more. Actually, it's pretty good. I could probably eat a lot of beef jerky and have it with this wine as a snack. Some beef jerkies don't go well with some wines. I think this would actually pair fairly well with this wine. I think it would, because with the tannins and the kind of the smoky, the oaky touch to it, and then the jerky, the beef jerky itself. I think it would work okay with that if that's what you have, and if you beef jerky and wine. Who knew? Let's try it with the cheddar cheese. Now, the thing is about cheddar cheese and Pinotages. Some Pinotages go better with a milder cheddar, and some go better with a sharper cheddar. This is kind of a medium cheddar, as I understand. So we'll give it a shot. See if we have the best of both on here. Yeah, medium cheddar. It's okay. It's okay. And not crazy bad, but it's okay. Not bad. Let's try it with the what is this? Parmesan. This one might work better with the Parmesan. We'll see. And it does. I like it with the Parmesan. Goes well with the Parmesan. I like that. I would think this would probably go with a pepperoni pizza. If you ever go to someplace like Pizza Hut or something, and you get the pizza, and you then you order the extra packets of Parmesan cheese, and what I used to do is just get a whole bunch of those packets, and I just dump a Parmesan on top of their cheese, and it made it much better. A couple of pizza places I've been to, I would have to dump on a lot of extra Parmesan later just because there was so little cheese on it. They would just skimp on the cheese, and I'd just be dumping Parmesan to make up for some of that. Those were usually pizza places I never went back to, but I just used to do it for Pizza Hut because particularly personal pan pizzas, they usually had a pretty thick layer of cheese, and then I'd just dump the Parmesan on for good measure just because I love cheese. But this is not bad. We'll try it with a puto later. Maybe we'll see how that goes. But for now, let's go back to the chat for a moment. And what are you all drinking? How are you all doing in the chat? Sherry, Rob, James, tell me how you're doing in the chat. Tell me how things are going with you, and tell me what you're drinking or what you'd like to be drinking or like to see me drinking. It's okay if it's water, if it's whatever it is. It's fine. Just tell me how you're doing. And once again, this is a Backsberg kosher Pinotage, which who knew? Like I said, I'm not Jewish, and I don't know. The thing is, it's a kosher wine. So and I thought that it would be kind of appropriate to open a kosher wine since we were fairly close to Passover. We were actually just after Passover. And I guess this would be a wine for Passover, I suppose. So, So there you go. A kosher wine. Anyway, so let's see what we got going on in. Nothing going on in YouTube right now, and nothing going on. Tom Antio says, I'm drinking water. Good, son, good. He has a few more months before he can be drinking wine. But when he does, and I'm going to have him try a red and a white. That's what I did with my daughter Tia when she turned 21. On her birthday, I set her down and I said, okay, let's try some wine. I gave her a glass of red and a glass of white, and I had her try both. Now, she didn't care for either. But I did have her try a beer later on, and she actually kind of liked beer. So she's more of a beer person, which is okay. That's okay. In moderation, of course, as always. All right, so I promised that we were going to look at something. We were going to take a look at the Pinotage grapes. So let's talk about that. We're going to get to the birthdays, and James, stick around and bring Izzy with you if she's watching in a few minutes. We've got some birthdays, and let's see. I'm going to go into a little bit on the Pinotage grape somewhat. I spent a while putting this together. So let's learn about the Pinotage grape, which is what this wine is made of. Now, Pinotage, first of all, Pinotage is a portmanteau. It's a portmanteau of Pinot Noir and Hermitage, or Hermitage is an older name for Saison, for the Saison grape, and this has a very interesting history, a very interesting story. This is not a normal natural grape that people have been growing for centuries. This is actually a fairly new grape. Pinot Noir and Hermitage, that's where it gets the name Pinotage. And so the history with this grape, very, very interesting. It originated in South Africa in the mid-1920s, and I think around 1925, I believe, if I recall correctly. And it originated in the mid-1920s in South Africa. And there's a kind of an interesting story to this, because what it was is that it was the developer, the person who came up with this grape, his name, and if I can pull it up here. There we go. His name was Abraham Isaac Perold. I think it's Perold. Abraham Isaac Perold. So Abraham Isaac Perold, he was experimenting with here a little bit, and he came up. He basically combined the Pinot Noir grape with the Hermitage, with the Sesson grape, and came up with his own grape. And I don't know that he really had a name for it at that point, but he came up with this grape, and then he had it. I think it was at a university. Let me go. I think Wikipedia has some stuff on this. You can go look it up on Wikipedia. Look up Hermitage. But apparently he was a professor of viticulture at Stellenbosch University, and he was trying to combine the best of all of the different grapes. So that's where he came up with this one. Well, what happened was he had it and left it growing, I guess, for a while, and then at some point they were going to, as I understand it, they were going to, because they had a little garden here at his residence at, I think it was Welgenfallen Experimental Farm. There you go. So basically, he had them growing there in his garden, and then he forgot all about them, and when he left, and then when they, I think he left the university at some point, and then the garden just kind of, went into disarray, and the university at some point sent in some people to clean up the garden, to clean it all up and get rid of everything, mow it down or whatever they did, and one of the people there doing that happened to come across the grape plants, the grapevines, and he happened to see that they were, he recognized them for what they were. He recognized that, well, these are grapes, these are grapevines. And so he knew about it. Apparently he knew that what Mr. Perold had been doing, experimenting with the grapes, so he wanted to save them. So what they did was I think they transferred them over, and then so he was able to save those seedlings, and then move them to the Eisenberg Agricultural College. And then the person who succeeded Mr. Perold, his name was C.J. Perron, and he saw the grapes and he thought, let's go ahead and develop this further. So what he did was he grafted them to rootstock for a couple of other grapes that were, I guess, that were in development, or no, there were some that had just been newly set up and developed. So he grafted these onto these new vines, and from there, the plants began to thrive, and they were able to grow these vines with this Pinotage grape. So what happened was at that point, and was in, I think in, what was it, 1941? Yes, it was first introduced in 1941. They actually took the grape. Now, he grafted to the new vines, I think, in 1935, and then they made wine for it, and they first introduced the wine in 1941. So in 1941, that was the first time wine was made from this Pinotage grape. And it had some mixed, it started off with some mixed reviews, but overall, people like this wine. Now, this is all still happening in South Africa, folks. This is all still happening in South Africa. Then I think at some point it really started to get some attention, gain some national and then international attention, and then that's when this Pinotage wine really officially took off. So the first wine made in 1941. Now, initially, it was basically just grown in South Africa. So this is a South African. This is an original South African grape created in South Africa. And so this Pinotage wine is really, that's where it's from. That's his birthing country, is from from where it was burnt, that where it was first created was in South Africa. Very interesting. So the South Africans had their own wine, their own national grape, their own wine. Now, back in today, back then it was just being discovered. I think it took a little while for it to get on and gain national attention or international attention. But today, they are growing these grapes in a number of countries, not just South Africa. This is primarily where these grapes are grown and where the wine is produced in South Africa. But other countries have since then taken an interest in Pinotage, and so now it's grown in Brazil, Canada, in Israel, New Zealand, here in the United States, and in Zimbabwe. I did not know, to be honest, I did not know that Zimbabwe was a big wine producer, but apparently it's producing wine. So good for Zimbabwe. That's pretty cool. So that is basically the history of the grape, of the Pinotage grape. So once again, we're drinking this Backsberg Pinotage wine, and it's a kosher Pinotage, which I think is very, very interesting. Any comments on this? Anybody want to anything anybody want to know about this wine? I can answer a few questions about it because I've been doing a little bit of studying on this wine. Pretty interesting stuff, but I'm trying not to go too long because we still have to do the birthdays and everything else. Which tell you what, let's go ahead and get to that right now. We're going to toast some birthdays, anniversaries, national days. Let me fill this glass so we can do that. And let me make sure it's on the. I'm making sure it's on my coaster here. My official Drink with Rick coaster. By the way, if you want a couple of these, I'll mail you a couple of these. I'll mail you. They're easy to mail. Not a big deal. I'll email a couple of Drink with Rick coasters, a pair of them. All you need to do is just email me. Just email me at Drink with Rick at savoyamedia.com. That's Rick at savoyamedia.com, and give me some comments. Tell me what you think about the show. Tell me what you'd like to see me do, or what you'd like to see me drink on the show. Things that you would like to see changed or added, or whatever. Give me your feedback and tell me how. What you like and what you don't like about the show, and I'll send and tell me, Rick, send me a pair of your here. I've got an older one here. It's got wine all over it. These are pretty durable. They're paper. They're heavy, 80-pound bond, but they're very durable, and they're designed to be reused, so they're not throwaways, and you can use them for quite a while. They'll last for a while. Send me your comments and say, Rick, send me a pair of those coasters, and I'll send you a pair. Why not? So I'll be happy to do it. Anyway, where were we? Oh, birthdays. Let's get to the birthdays, and let's see who we have for birthdays. I've got my Backsberg notes here. Here we go. The birthdays. Oh, first one on the list, my friend David Bennett, my good friend David Bennett. And Bennett, if you're watching now or later, I'm going to give you a toast to your birthday. David's turning 30. Actually, his birthday was on the 9th, which was, it's Thursday? Right. David's birthday was on the 9th. Actually, that's an interesting story behind David. And he went to his first Podfest. My son and I have been going to Podfest for several years, but he went to his first Podfest, and before he went down there, he wanted to get a group together and people he wanted to meet and that sort of thing. Just kind of meet a lot of new people down there. So he. And I was one of those who first connected with him online on Facebook, and then we went down there to Podfest. He had some meetups where a lot of people just got to get together with him. He got to meet everybody and made a lot of new friends. And I thought that was very cool. That was very cool what he did. And he's a very nice guy. He's a very personable guy. And I tell you what, the last day of Podfest, he just gave me a great big hug. Said, "Hey, it was great. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you were able, to meet you and all that." And it was just a very warm, personable guy. And anyway, I wanted to say, David, here's to your birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Let's toast you one more time, okay? Happy birthday to David. A good friend, David Bennett. And he's kept that momentum going. He's got his own group going and everything like that. It's really cool. The next one, the next birthday that I want to toast, now she's a little young to be drinking herself, but Jerome, James, if you're still in the chat, bring Izzy in here and there and give her a soda or something or a glass of water or whatever, because I'm going to toast Izzy's birthday. This is for Izzy Jerome. Izzy is a very special young lady. Izzy is, she's a podcaster, and I think she started podcasting when James. So James is her dad. Izzy started podcasting when she was what, 7 or 8, 9, very, very young. And she has been doing a really great job with her podcast, and she's really come a long way. And I told James before, I said, you really want to cultivate that, because she could have a great career ahead of her. And whenever I see young people podcasting, especially when they've really kind of caught on to it and they're really getting the hang of it, and they're the thing is about Izzy is that some of her podcasts, I think, she shows up some of the adults. I'll have to say that. I've heard some, look, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I've heard some great ones. I've heard some good ones. I've heard some marginal ones. I've heard some pretty bad ones. Izzy has really shown some people how to do a podcast from some of the ones I've heard. I in my 14 years of podcasting, and I've heard some very interesting podcasts. But I want to say here's to Izzy. Happy birthday to you. Her birthday was Friday, the 10th, right? Izzy, happy birthday. And I'll toast you again just because I can. Here's to Izzy Jerome. Happy birthday. Now, one of the reasons why that kind of is close to home for me is because, as you know, my son Tommy and my daughter Tia. My son Tommy was 10 years old when he started podcasting. Now, the way this worked is that Tommy and Tia, we did originally it was just something to kind of be something interesting for the kids to do or to try. And we did a few episodes. It was called the Tia and Tommy Show. They did a show together, the Tia and Tommy Show, and it's actually still online. If you can go check it out, the website has changed a lot because I sort of had to redo the website over the years. But it was called the Tia and Tommy Show. So you just go to tiatommy.com. That's where the show is, tiatommy.com. About 4 episodes. I think there's a 5th one that I've never finished, but one of these days I think I'm actually just going to go ahead and finish it and post it. But the lost episode, we'll call it. But in the very beginning. Now, Tia, she didn't really take too much to the podcasting thing, but Tommy, the first time we sat him down the microphone, from the first moment I turned on the recorder and started recording him, he just practically ate up the microphone. I mean, and he ad-libbed almost all of his stuff. I mean, we had some stuff that was scripted, some stuff that was a little ad-lib, but some of it was scripted, but Tommy, we just let him go to town, so to speak, and he just ad-libbed everything, and he just did a phenomenal job. I was really impressed. And he loved it from the start, and then from then on, he went on to do his own podcast over the years, and he's been podcasting for 10 years now. So for Izzy, I'll tell you, keep at it, and you'll make a real name. You've already kind of made a name for yourself, but very good. I think we're all proud of Izzy. We all are. So once again, happy birthday to Izzy. And let's see, we've got another. We have another birthday coming up, another special birthday personally for me. And this is, see, I don't see my sister Penny in the chat anywhere, but Sheriff, if you're still there, you can let her know. She can watch it later. My nephew, Ben Harms. My nephew, Ben, he is going to turn 14 on the 13th. It's going to be 14 on the 13th, which is Monday. So I want to give a very, very special toast to my nephew, Ben. Here's to you, Ben. Happy birthday. I'm going to do that again, too. Because, he's turning into a fine young man. And he has great parents that he's been learning from. My sister Penny and my brother-in-law, Tom. Great people. And they've been good parents. And I know that they're raising Ben very well. And he's turning into a fine young man. I haven't actually seen Ben for a little while, but I interact with them on Facebook, and I keep up with what's going on with them. And he's going to be turning 14 on Monday. So here is to Ben, my nephew Ben. Happy birthday! Happy birthday! And a good young man with some good values. There's an anniversary I want to toast as well. An anniversary, and this is for my good friend Mike Dell of Blueberry. And Mike was in the chat with us last week, as a matter of fact. He spent a lot of time with us in the chat last week. And we did, let's see, he's been podcasting for officially for 15 years now. This is his 15th anniversary as a podcaster, and which goes way back. And his first podcast I listened to way back when I started podcasting, way back 14 years ago, Geek of the North. And he was one of the number of podcasters that I listened to back then, and it started inspiration for some of them were inspirations for me to start my own. And when I was starting my own podcast, I wanted to give a listen to a few other people doing podcasting to find out what they were doing and how they were doing it. And his was one that I listened to early on. And as well as some of my other longtime friends, Daniel J. Lewis, and let's see who else was there at the time. Let's say I want to say that I used to listen to Caffeination a lot. And, of course, Todd Cochran's podcast, Geek News Central. And let's see, I listened to quite a few of them back then. A lot of them have pod faded since then, but some of them are still going strong. Todd's is still going strong. He's been doing it for, 15, 16 years. So that's a lot. There's a lot to be said for that. And, of course, Mike is also a tech guy, the tech guy for Blueberry. He works for Blueberry.com. He works for Todd. And Blueberry is a major hosting company for podcasters. They also have a directory, wine. And you can go to Blueberry.com to check all of that out. Our shows are on Blueberry. All of our shows have been on Blueberry for many years. I started out. I put my show, one of my first shows, the Force Field, on the Tech Podcast Network, and I was a member of that. And that's how I got to know a lot of these guys. And there was a pretty tight group there on Tech Podcast Network, and that was owned by Todd Cochran, and that's still around, by the way, techpodcast.com. But that's where I first met a lot of those guys. And Blueberry, the other directory there, that I've been on that for many years, and all my podcasts have been hosted on Blueberry at some point. And my son's podcast, and he hosts with Blueberry, as a matter of fact. So we go way back, and we go way back with Mike. So anyway, Mike, I want to say happy anniversary, happy 15th anniversary. That is definitely a milestone. Here's to you. Once again, here's to Mike Dell, 15 years as a podcaster. Happy anniversary. Great guy, too. He's also a ham. like Tommy and me. He's also a longtime ham radio operator. Okay, so we've got the birthdays and anniversaries. I think that's got that done. Let's do some national days, because I'm still in a toasting mood, aren't you? Are you in the toasting mood? Let's see what's going on YouTube. Nothing going on Twitch. Oh, Add Me Friend 1. Good evening, sir. Add Me Friend 1. It's great to see you. Good evening to you. And you know what? I'm going to take a moment just to toast Add Me Friend 1, just to say hi. Add Me Friend 1, here's to you. Good evening. Good Saturday. I hope your Saturday is going well. Tell me how you're doing, or tell me what you're drinking, or what you're not drinking, or what you like to drink, or what you like to see me drinking. It's okay. And Emmy friend 1 says, I'll drink some Pedialyte, a bit of dehydration. Oh, wow. Sorry to hear that. Yeah, it's not good to be dehydrated. You know what about that, by the way? And here I am going off on tangents again, because that's what we do here on Drink with Rick. Is you want to be careful and pace yourself with the wine and all that, which is one reason I have some water, which I probably need to have some right now. You ever drink a lot of alcohol of anything, and you wake up at 4 in the morning and you got that tasty mouth and you got a little bit of a headache and that sort of thing. It's partly from dehydration. So you want to drink plenty of water for that. That will stave off. And as a matter of fact, having some water while you're drinking wine will actually help prevent the headaches. Some people have a tendency to get the wine headaches, particularly with the red wines. This is a little tip here that this will actually help you stave off those wine headaches. So have a little more of that water for good measure, and then back to the wine. Anyway, Adam, your friend 1, I hope you're doing all right. So you're going to have some Pedialyte. A bit of dehydration. Sorry to hear that, but hope you're doing better in that respect. And yeah, stay hydrated, my friends. Stay hydrated, please. That's very, very important, especially these days while we're all shut in during this pandemic. Now, one thing I have heard is that one thing that can help. I am not a doctor. I don't play one on TV. I'm not, like I said, don't take my word for all this, but things I've heard. One of the things I've heard is that drinking plenty of water can help with during this pandemic. So you want to keep yourself hydrated at all times. Just a tip from me. Add Me Friend 1 also says, excellent choice on the purified water. I love purified water over spring water. And so do I. Now, there are a couple of schools of thought on purified water and spring water. And this is the brand that I happen to have here is is from Sam's Club. It's the Members Markup. That's what I call it. Members Mark, okay. But I call it Members Markup brand. That's a whole nother discussion for a whole nother time, okay? but purified water, I prefer that over spring water because the natural spring water, they just pull it from the spring and there's all kinds of stuff in there. I don't necessarily trust that. I mean, there's a lot to be said for natural spring water maybe 50 or 100 years ago, but today, I don't know. Even so, if you got natural, and I've been to springs, I have swum in springs. Swum. I have done tubing in springs, natural springs, and I can tell you that after I've seen a whole bunch of people swimming in the springs, like I'd go down to Silver Springs or I'd go down to Wekiva Springs. They're both in Florida. Wekiva Springs and some of the other, and then of course you go to the store, you see a whole bunch of people, especially in the summertime, swimming in the springs, and then you go into the supermarket and say, oh, this is the water's from Silver Springs or Wekiva Springs. I'm like, I hope it's not the stuff those people were swimming in yesterday. Because you know what people do when they're swimming in the water, and I don't want to get gross about it, but I'm just not a fan of spring water for that reason. Now, if it was spring water, that natural spring water that nobody ever swam in or, just was up the mountains and trickled down, and that's fine. I think there are a couple of beers that they promote as being from natural spring water from the mountains. That might be okay. But for some of the springs in Florida, where every time I go there, everybody, it's full of people. I see more people in some of those springs than I see at the pool at the Y sometimes. It just sort of makes me want to say, I think I'm going to go with the purified or the distilled water. And I know there's another school of thought of that where people are saying, purified distilled water, when they distill it, when they purify it, and it goes through, especially like an osmosis kind of purification or process or something, it takes all of the natural minerals out of the water. It takes everything out of the water, so all you have is just water, and your body needs some of those natural minerals. There's a lot to be said for that. There really is. I mean, I understand that argument. That should be there should be some balance, though, and I think some of them will actually put some minerals back in after they purify the water, which I guess is okay depending on what they're putting into it. This one doesn't say that. This one says, it's they put a couple things in there, but for the most part, I prefer the purified over the spring water. A good choice. And V Colorblind says, should I be drinking Taylor Port? Taylor Port. And good to see you, V Colorblind, by the way. Good to see you in the chat. Thanks for joining us. Should I be drinking Taylor Port? What I say is that since we're all kind of sequester, I don't know if that's a word to use here. Since we're all confined to our homes for the time being in most, if not all, of the country, I would say drink what you got. How the old line goes, smoke them if you got them. Drink it if you got it. It doesn't matter. It can be $2 Chuck. I'm not going to judge you on if you're drinking a port or a sherry. I'm talking about drinking sherry. Okay, sherry. The $2 Chuck or whatever. Drink what you got and make the most of it, because these are some difficult times. So I'm not going to discriminate. And Pete's joined us in the chat. It's great to see you, Pete. It's good to see how you doing. It's good to see you here, and tell me how you're doing and how Aunt Connie and Denise are doing. And Aunt Connie's at 102 now, and she may get to 103. I mean, July. Her birthday's July 4th, and that's not too far off. It's only another 3 months off, and we may be toasting a 103rd birthday, right? So that's cool. Let me get to a few national days. I'll keep this short and sweet, because we're going to keep this episode short and sweet too. Today's April 11th, right? So April 11th, this is National Barbershop Quartet Day. You like a barbershop quartet? Kind of an a cappella kind of thing? National Barbershop Quartet, for people singing. I like barbershop quartets. Haven't heard one in a while. I think last time I saw one was on an episode of... Is it Andy Griffith? Somewhere. Anyway, Barbershop Quartet Day. National Barbershop Quartet Day. We'll drink to that. Classic entertainment. National Cheese Fondue Day. Do you like a cheese fondue? I like cheese. I like fondue, depending on what it is. I mean, there's some fondues I'm not crazy about. I like chocolate fondue. My wife, she has a chocolate fondue fountain there that she's used once or twice, and it's a lot of fun. Pretty rich. Cheese Fondue Day, National Cheese Fondue Day. Now let's drink to that, whatever. There was a place in Orlando decades ago. I know my parents went there. It had been there for a while. I think it was called, I can't remember what it was called. It was... But that's what they did. That was their special. They did fondue, and it was on. I do remember that it was. Sure, if you're still in the chat, let me know. Maybe you remember this, or anyone in Orlando. There was a fondue place down there. My parents went there for their anniversary one year, and I'd been in there I think once, not to eat, but for something else, and it was. I can't remember the name of it, to be honest, but it was off of 1792. It was in, I want to say it was in Maitland. It was in Maitland, and just past Maitland Boulevard, Maitland Interchange at the time, that's what we called it, and everything. And then It was down near where the Enzion Theater is, for those who are familiar with the Orlando area. And it was called the, I don't remember what it's called. Maybe maybe somebody can refresh my memory and if you can recall what it was. But it was a pretty nice place to eat. And that's all they did. That was their special. They did everything fondue. It was pretty cool. So, and it was there for many, many years. And then one day it just disappeared. And I think they changed it over to something else at some point. But very, very nice place. Very nice place. Anyway, so getting back to the national days. Let's see, in April. Okay, National 8-Track Tape Day. Today is a National 8-Track Tape Day. Okay, who can tell me, who's old enough to remember 8-track tapes? Do you know what that is? Do you know what that was, I should say? An 8-track tape player and 8-track tapes. I think I had one around here at some point. I was going to try to save it for the wine stream tonight and show people what an 8-track tape was, but I didn't get that far with it. Anyway. But we used to, when I was a kid, that was the thing. Back in the early 70s, 8-track tape players, and they even had 8-track tape recorders so you could record your own 8-tracks. I know because we had one. My dad had one that he won from the, where was it, from the VFW or where was that he used to go to? The American Legion. He used to belong to the American Legion as a vet, and he used to win a lot of stuff there. He won a color TV. We were the first people in our neighborhoods who had a color TV just because he won one. And let's see, that was back in the 60s. And then he won, this was back in Salisbury, as a matter of fact, Salisbury, North Carolina, back in the 60s. And he won an 8-track, he won a stereo set, a really, really nice stereo, especially for that time. And part of it was an 8-track tape recorder. And this thing had a pop-up. It had a thing that you could, it was a really nice stereo deck, and then it had a pop-up piece that kind of popped up in like a V, and you could shove the 8-track tape in there and then push it down and then play the 8-tracks. And it could also record 8-tracks, and we had recordings. In fact, as a matter of fact, my mother made recordings of us when we were little, made recordings of us on these 8-tracks. They're long gone. I don't know whatever happened to them. They're long gone. I don't know if my dad ever saved them or anything. But the thing is that at one time you could actually record on 8-tracks. But they sold a lot of commercial 8-tracks. Now what an 8-track was, it was a cartridge, and it had a it looped. It had a little it had a little bit of tape in there, a little small reel of tape, but the way it was designed was that the tape would loop back on itself, so it was closed in a loop. And it could play about, I think it had about 10, 12 minutes on the loop, about 12 minutes, I think, 15 maybe at the most. And it had it on the loop, and the way the 8-track worked was that it was called an 8-track because it was a stereo tape, but it had 4 stereo tracks on it. There were 1, 2, 3, 4 stereo tracks, and each track, you had 2 tracks for stereo for each one, so that made it an 8-track. So what it would do is it would go to, this thing would loop around, but it was tied together. The 2 ends were tied together with a aluminum, or not aluminum, but a piece of metal there that would trigger the tape head, the player head, so that the player head would play the one track, play the first track, and then when it was done, and there were usually like 2 or 3 songs in the first track, and then when it was done playing the first track and it hit that metal piece, it would jump up to the second track and play whatever songs, 2 or 3 songs on the second track, and then when it get to that metal piece again, go to the third track, play through that, and then play through the fourth track, so it automatically, the tape head actually mechanically moved, so it would jump from track to track. and then play all 4 times. It was actually pretty amazing technology back in the day for that day. It was actually pretty amazing technology because it relied on a lot of mechanical parts to this player head that had to move back and forth across the tracks. So the thing is about the 8-track, it was the same width. It was 1/4 inch tape. It was the same width as the tape on a reel-to-reel. Same width. It just had double the tracks on it, very thin. So the fidelity wasn't real high because it had to double up on those tracks, but it was there. And a pretty cool technology for the time. But 8 tracks, because it was a cartridge, you just pop it in and let it play, and it just play over and over and over again. No rewinding required. You can just play over and over and over. Trust me. After a while, you get sick of it, because my parents, it's a funny story about that, and I'll tell it next week because we're going late on this, but I'll tell you a funny story next week, if I can make a note of it, about 8-track tapes and family vacations. There's a funny story in there. So I'll tell that one next week. Anyway, let's get back to this. Here's the National 8-Track Tape Day. I remember that. Cassettes replaced 8 tracks. Actually, they came in tandem with 8 tracks for a while. Then they completely replaced them. And then, of course, CDs replaced all of that. And the rest is history. So, 8-track tape day. April 11th, today, April 11th, for another 15 minutes, is National Pet Day. National Pet Day. I will definitely drink to that. We have a pet. Cosmo, our dog Cosmo. I've showed you Cosmo's picture before. This is our pet. Actually, this is Tommy's pet, my son Tommy. This is his dog. On his, I want to say it was his 10th birthday. This was, I think, about the same year he started podcasting. For his birthday, we got him a dog, and he was already 3 years old at the time, I think. And his name is Cosmo. He is a sweet dog. He really is. He's a sweet dog. He loves to please everybody. He loves to, as you can tell from the ball in the picture, he loves to play. That's one of his favorite things. Now, in this photo, he hasn't had his hair cut. He looks a little bit trimmer than this right now, because this was just before he went to the groomer to get his hair cut. But he just loves everybody. Cosmo just loves everybody, and everybody loves Cosmo. Everybody in the neighborhood sees him come by, and they just love Cosmo. He's just a sweet dog. Anyway, that's Cosmo. And so this is to National Pet Day. And April 11th is also National Submarine Day. Have you ever been on a submarine? That's a good question. Anybody ever been on a submarine? Pete, I know you have. You've been on a submarine. Now, we've been on a submarine. And let's see. Admy Friend 1 says, I like lots of cheese on a hoagie. Yeah, so do I. And Admy Friend 1 says, I was born in 1992. I think it's before the cassette. Let's see. No, the cassette was around in 1992. The cassettes were around in the late 70s, early 80s. Excuse me, I would say mid 70s. Cassettes first came around the mid 70s because I remember my first cassette player. I think I was around 15 or 16 years old. That's really dating me. Okay, that was back in the mid. Around 76, 77. No, 75, I would say. Because when I was a kid, oh man, I'm going to go into a long story. Don't go into a long story, Rick. Not tonight. But just to make it brief, when I was a kid, I was really into filmmaking. And I used to make 8mm films. And I used to make films with stories to them and stuff like that. But in the early days, when I was really small, when I was about 13, 14 years old, I did not have and we were shooting stuff on regular 8mm before I could afford a Super 8 camera. Super 8 cameras came around in the early 70s, and they had sound on them. But standard 8mm cameras were around since the 40s and the 50s. And that was the kind of camera I had. What I started off with was a standard 8mm camera. Those did not have sound. So in order to make the films that I wanted to make, because I want to make story films with sound to them, I had a cassette recorder, and I would do the sound on the cassette. I would record the sound on the cassette recorder, and then sometimes post production I would make sound on it, add music and narrative and stuff like that, and then sync it up and play it. Well, sync it up, so to speak. I'd play the cassette player when I was showing the film to match it all up, try to sync it all up. Very crude way of doing it, but it was all I had as a kid. So I know that cassettes were around back around 1972 because that's what I used for one of the early 8mm films I made back in the 70s, and back in 1972. I made one of my early ones. So I knew they were there then. So looking at 1972, cassettes were around since then. Cassettes, CDs really kind of replaced cassettes, but it didn't happen overnight because cassettes were still pretty popular, especially in vehicles, in cars. And I think I still had a cassette player in one of my cars that was from I want to say in the 1990s. They were still putting cassette players in cars up until the 90s, until they just started replacing everything with CDs. So to answer your question, Anime Friend One, it was cassettes were around in 1972. And I think they kind of left the scene, so to speak, in the early 80s. No, I take it back. It was probably early 90s, because in the early 90s, cassettes still hung around. But I think in some places, cassettes are actually making a comeback in some ways, because it's an analog format, not a digital format, just like phonograph records are. Like vinyl is. Vinyl is starting to make a comeback, or it has been making a comeback, because it's kind of a warmer, high fidelity tone to it than CDs or than MP3s are, and it can actually carry a wider range of it covers a wider tonal range and a wider range of the audio spectrum than MP3s do. So. That's why a lot of people are investing in vinyl again. I sold a lot of my vinyl records. I lost some of them along the way too, over the years. But I still have a few down there, and we still play some sometimes. And I still love vinyl. Let's see. Tom Antio says, I remember his fur was long. His fur so long. LOL. We went to a land marine. Yes, we did. Tommy's talking about the submarine thing. I'll get back to that. National Submarine Day. National Submarine Day today. I'll toast that. Why not? Thanks for bringing me back on track there, Tommy. Tom Antio. And we went, actually, we've been on submarines before. I've been on a submarine a couple of times, but they were dry dock. I guess is that what you call them, dry dock? They're permanently there in a museum. So I went on a couple on those. And then I went, the latest one that I went on, the last one I went on was with Pete, as a matter of fact, my cousin Pete. I know Pete's been on submarines before, but we went there and we toured one of the submarines up in, I believe it was Maryland. It was in Maryland, and they had a museum there where you could actually go down there into the submarine and tour around in the submarine. That's the one Tommy's talking about, I believe. So yes, we did tour a submarine. I've got pictures. Maybe next week I can find some pictures and pull that up and show some of the pictures of that. That was a lot of fun. I'll tell you what, it's a fun. A submarine is a fun place to visit, but I definitely wouldn't want to live there. I definitely wouldn't want, some of these guys are down there for 1, 3, 6 months. That's a long time to be cooped up in a tin can. And if you are claustrophobic, that's not a place you want to be, especially when you're hundreds of feet under the water, right? If you have to dive. I tell you what, it takes a certain acumen to a certain discipline to be able to live on a submarine. And I'm not talking about the yellow one. Okay. So let's see. I'll get back to Twitch for a minute. Okay, we're good on Twitch. I caught up there. Nothing going on YouTube. On Facebook, people are quiet on Facebook tonight. I tell you what, the Twitch folks are beating you on the chat tonight. They're really beating you on the chat. Everyone's quiet on Facebook tonight, but Twitch, there's more activity going on there. So we're going to close this up here shortly, but there are a couple of things I want to note because this takes care of the national days for now. But there are a couple of things I want to note. First, I want to talk to you about the emergency radios, and we've seen an uptick at bytwowayradios.com. And for full disclosure, I work for bytwowayradios.com. I'm the product manager there. And we've seen quite an uptick in emergency radios, especially during the pandemic. It's really kind of surprised us a little bit where a lot of people, a lot of consumers buying, the personal radios like the GMRS, the FRS radios, and ham radios and such, which was not too surprising because with this pandemic, radios can do, there's a lot you can do with radios. There really is. So they come in very handy for business and personal use during a pandemic situation like this. But the emergency radios, I thought was really interesting. We really weren't expecting that. But with the emergency weather radios, there has been just a huge surge in people buying emergency radios and weather radios lately during this shut-in, this pandemic. And I can understand that. Looking back, I can understand that, but I really wasn't really expecting that, to be honest. There's a lot. But I tell you what, if you are, and we've talked about emergency weather radios in the past, and I have one up here. I keep one up here with me. This is a Midland XT511, and it's also a GMRS radio as well. And it has like 5 different power options and a hand crank. It has a hand crank here, so if you run out of all the other power, you can crank it up and provide some power. It'll also charge your cell phone and your tablet as well. So it's a really cool radio. But we have them available at Buy Two Radio. Here's Buy Two Way Radios. That's the website. You can buy all that stuff there. But if you use the promo code WINESHOW, that's WINESHOW, WINESHOW, use the promo code WINESHOW, you can save an additional 5% off your order. So you go there and order an emergency weather radio, or if you're in a ham radio, or whatever kind of radio you want to buy, or accessory you want to buy, go to bytwowayradios.com, enter the code WINESHOW, and you can save 5% off your order, courtesy of my boss there, and tell him you heard it on Drink with Rick. Also, this thing, what I use here for you podcasters, the surveillance earpiece that I use here in the back, this is also from bytwowayradios.com, by the way. So I wanted to mention one other thing here before a couple other things before we take off. One other thing is the Start Ugly book. Now, last week we started this, okay, the Start Ugly book. I am giving one away. Now, if you noticed in the background here, I've got it sitting right here, okay, a copy of Start Ugly by Chris Kremitzos. Chris Kremitzos is one of the founders of Podfest that we go to every year, and he wrote this book, and it's a really cool book. And I highly recommend this book to anyone who is interested in starting a project, but has been putting it off because you're afraid of failure, or you're concerned that everything has to be perfect before you start doing this. No, it doesn't. You just have to get started. Because if you wait till all the stars align just perfectly, it's not going to happen, and you'll never start your project, whatever it is. This is a great book. I highly recommend it. My son Tommy also, he's read it, and he recommends it too. It's a really good book. But we're giving a copy away in the next week or so. And this is, for a couple of weeks, we're doing this. what I'd like for you to do is I'd like for you to email me or put in the chat. You can put in the chat if you want to, either on Twitch. If you're in Twitch and you want to put in the Twitch chat, I'll catch that. You want to do it on the YouTube chat, or if you want to leave it in the YouTube comments, that's so fine. If you want to leave it in the Facebook comments or the Facebook chat for the show, that's fine too. Whatever it is, what I'd like for you to do is I'd like you to tell me, and it doesn't have to be in a lot of words. You can, however long you want to make it. A few words, many words, whatever. I want you to answer this question. What idea, project, or dream do you have but have put off starting or completing for one reason or another? What idea, project, or dream do you have but have put off starting or completing for one reason or another? Just tell me what it is. And it could be anything. It could be a business idea. It could be an idea for an invention. It could be an idea for just any kind of a project, any kind of an idea whatsoever. You want to invent a recipe for some sort of a cooking recipe for some sort of dish or whatever it is. If you have an idea for anything, something that you've always wanted to do, bucket list, that sort of thing. Look, if you wanted to go skydiving or if you wanted to parasail, or if you wanted to do anything like that, there was something particular that you wanted to do in your life, anything like this, but you've been afraid to do because you're afraid of failure, or you're afraid of, in the case of skydiving, I don't know if you're afraid of failing. I think that's, that's why I don't skydive. Afraid of failure on that one. That'd be the last thing. But you know what I'm getting at, right? If you're afraid, if there's something that you wanted to try, maybe a business idea. Maybe you want to start a business, your own business. Maybe you wanted to do something with a craft, or do something with whatever it is. Make a garden, or renovate your house, or do anything like that. But you've been afraid to start because you're afraid that you're going to mess it up, or it's not going to be exactly the way you want it because you don't know everything about it, because you don't everything has to be perfect. No, it does not have to be perfect. What you have to do is you have to start ugly. Just start doing it, get it done, perfect it along the way. It could be a podcast, could be a video, anything like that. So what idea, project, or dream do you have but have put off starting or completing for one reason or another? And send me that. You can send it to rick@savoyamedia.com. You can email me that information. You can put it in the comments on this video, or in the previous video, because that's when we started this thing was in the previous video from last week. You can, put it in the comments here, anywhere. Just tell me one way or another, what idea, project, or dream do you have but have put off starting or completing for one reason or another? I'm going to pull one entry from this, and I will send you. I'll give you a copy of Start Ugly by Chris Kremitzos. Tell me what it is. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. You don't have to write an essay, okay? You don't have to write an essay or anything. Just a few words. Just much fewer words than I've done, right? In this podcast, in this wine stream. Just tell me, and I will choose one. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. Just choose one. I'll just choose one, and the winner will receive a copy of Start Ugly by Chris Kremitzos, okay? We're going to pull one of these in the next couple of weeks as soon as I start getting some entries coming in, and we'll see how it goes. And your chances of winning go up the fewer entries there are. So, hey, it doesn't hurt to send an entry in, right? It doesn't hurt. You might win this book. And it's a really cool book. It really is. Even if you don't like to read, this is an easy book to read. You'll like it. All right, so that's pretty much all I've got, except for one more item, and I'm going to play this now. This is a PSA. Remember, folks, we are kind of shut in right now. I'm going to play this PSA real quick.
COVID-19, better known as coronavirus, has spread throughout the world. Symptoms of this respiratory disease may include fever, cough, and shortness of breath. These symptoms may show up 2 to 14 days after exposure. If you are experiencing these symptoms and have come into contact or are in an area with an ongoing outbreak, please call a hotline and/or consult with a physician. Clean and disinfect high-touch surfaces. For more information, please visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. Thank you.
All right, folks. Please follow the instructions here. I want you all to stay safe. This kind of does it for the wine stream tonight. I want to thank you for being here with me. I know that there are a million other things you could be doing except going outside right now. This is entertainment, right? And for a few, for an hour and a half or so, this is a little respite from what's going on. But look, I want you guys to stay safe and just follow the instructions of the PSA, and hopefully we'll all be able to get through this and flatten the curve and get out of this thing together so we can go back to our lives and back to our jobs and back to, things. I don't know that everything is ever going to become completely normal again, kind of like 9/11. After 9/11, things were never really normal after that, but a little more normal than definitely more normal than they are now, right? So let's just make the best of a bad situation. Let's get through this together. Use some common sense. And let's do this. Let's do this so we can get out of this situation and get back to our lives, and then maybe we can move on from this, okay? And maybe make it better, a more positive thing. Maybe this can be a positive thing for us in the future, where it's made our lives better in some way after the fact. We don't know. We'll see. But I like to think to maintain the positive on this, and what I mean by positive is I mean a positive attitude, not positive for the virus. I want to be positive for a virus. So let's just try to do this, okay? And maybe we can flatten this curve and get out of here soon and go on with our lives. I hope so. Anyway, I want to thank you for being with me here tonight. Next week we're going to do something. We're going to open up something else. I don't know what it is, but we'll figure that out during the week. But once again, we've been drinking the Backsberg. This is the Backsberg Pinotage, the 2017 Pinotage. It's a South African Pinotage wine from a South African Pinotage grape. It is a kosher Pinotage. That's interesting. It's a kosher product, and it is. I found it to be rather oaky, a little bit smoky. It's some strawberry in there. I tasted some. It's almost like fruitcakey in a way, but it was actually pretty good. I liked it. I like this wine. I think it goes well with the. I really liked it with the roasted peanuts. That was kind of cool, and I liked it with the Parmesan cheese. The cheddar is kind of medium cheddar. Maybe a sharper cheddar might be better for this wine. And it went pretty well, surprisingly went pretty well with my wife's beef jerky. I can't say that beef jerky off the shelf that you try will go well with this wine, but the one that my wife made, which is actually a pretty good jerky, it paired pretty well with. And it went okay with the turkey pepperoni, I'll say. I did not try it with the puto. We're not going to try it with the puto tonight. But I'll tell you what. We'll try the puto next time. Anyway, I want to thank you for being here with me tonight and joining me in the chat. I want to thank, first of all, let's start off with folks on Twitch, if I can ever get back over there. There we go. I want to thank Add Me Friend 1 and The Colorblind, and Tom Antio for joining me on the chat there. And I want to thank James and Izzy if she was there. I don't know if she was or not, but I want to thank James for being there. And my lovely wife Chi, and Sherry, my good friend Sherry, who I toasted their anniversary last week, I believe. And Rob, always good to see you, Rob, and my good cousin Pete. Pete, it's good to see you there in the chat, although everybody was kind of quiet tonight. I want to thank you all for being with me here tonight on the Saturday Night Wine Stream. I appreciate you. I want you to stay safe throughout the week, okay? Practice the protections that we learned about in the PSA. Drink responsibly. Do not drink and drive. You really shouldn't be driving around much anyway, right? During this pandemic, I shouldn't need to be saying that anyway. Do not drink and drive. Definitely do not text and drive. Because I want you to have a great week. I want you to have a safe week. So you can join me next week on the Saturday Night Wine Stream, and we can all get together and drink with Rick. Good night.